What is up, everybody? Hey, it's Professor Otaku here, finally responding to a manga tag. As far as tags are concerned, I'm just going to throw this out there to anybody, like, aside from my buddy Jarrett, NoahClue, he's going to get tagged.
So, there's this trend going on, I heard, called MangaTag, where, you saw the description up there. Basically, people are talking about their manga collection, stuff that they own, different shows they have. It's kind of like just a way to get an idea about what kind of stuff you read, spread the good word, all that good stuff. And I have been tagged, apparently, by one Professor Otaku person. I'll get him. So, I know it's supposed to be just some really quick, vloggy kind of thing to do, just talk about the manga that you have, there's like 15 questions? Yeah, 15 questions on here. So I thought, okay, I can do that. But I'm not really a manga person is the thing, and I don't just mean like that's not what I talk about. I mean, I don't possess a lot of manga, but I think I can make that interesting. I think I can work with this here, so just hang with me, hold that thought. Good morning, and welcome to Manga in the Morning. I'm your host, NoahClue, and today we have a very, very special topic for us today. Apparently we have been tagged in what's known as a manga tag. You know, that game that you used to play when you were in elementary school, you tag, yeah, we're still doing that apparently, except now we are tagging people to make them tell us about their manga collection. It's so exciting, isn't it? Now, I gotta be honest here though, I don't really own a lot of manga. I've read quite a bit of it, though. I had an old housemate who had a much more extensive manga collection than I did. Angelic Layer. She also had the first couple of volumes of Full Metal Alchemist and Pet Shop of Horrors, so that was fun. But for me personally, I don't own too much manga. What I do own quite a bit of, though, is comic strips, sort of the American comic strips, the 4-panel ones that you see in the newspaper. So to make this more interesting than just going back and forth between the same couple manga that I happen to own, I'm going to be incorporating American comic strips that I own as well into the mix because it's my video. Be quiet. So let's get started with the very first question. What was your first manga? An old friend of mine from middle school, actually, he was the one who kind of got me into anime and manga to start with, and he had the first couple of volumes of Chobits, actually. It was at the time period where I didn't really know anything about anime, and it was a little pervy, middle school. You get like, not a little questionable about that, but it was intriguing enough that I hunted down the anime version a couple of years later, and it was, I think it's up there in the top 10 for me at least, so that was technically my first manga, kind of intro to manga. If we go by what I actually own, though, I think the first one that I own is actually something I don't even have in this collection here. My uncle had the biggest love for Calvin and Hobbes, and he got me the anthologies of Calvin and Hobbes when I was also in middle school. So I had those physical copies, but I don't own those anymore because I have since passed them on to my siblings. Actually, fun fact, I had them intact, but then I got a puppy in high school. He had a tendency to tear things up in the younger years, like puppies do. Labradors do that. So kind of tore up some of those Calvin and Hobbes pages, so I had to tape them back together again. So I'm pretty sure that I think my younger siblings who are in high school and first year in college now, they still own those. So that is technically the first comic strip that I own. I just don't have it with me anymore. Most expensive manga. Once again, we can go back to Calvin Hobbes on this one here and go for the shelf here.
That's not manga.
This right here is the full, complete Calvin and Hobbes that was released in paperback not too long ago. This sucker is a brick, and more extensively, trying to get the books out of here is a bit of a pain. Well, just lifting it. Once you get the books out of here, actually, it's not that bad. Actually, this is some very glorious pages here. I like it. I especially like it because what they did is they color-coded the back pages to be a little bit darker than the main pages, so the comic strip white doesn't like blend into the background layout. So I think that's kind of nice, and it's the whole thing. It is all of it in one collection, and some afternoons I will just grab it off the shelf and I will marathon the whole thing in there. So, but yeah, I mean, you can't take this on a trip or anything. This is a pain to lug around. Give me 1 minute. What is your least expensive manga? So for this one, I can actually go into the manga section here because that would be this. This is the 7th volume of Neon Genesis Evangelion, the actual manga, not one of the spin-offs, but the actual one that was being released at the time that the anime was also airing. It was supposed to be a promotional tie-in to it, that it kind of went in a different direction, but this volume here cost me nothing. Kind of. Actually, this was a giveaway at a convention I went to, Anime Weekend Atlanta, and what it was, I think it was an Oron High School masquerade ball kind of deal. We had like divided up the audience into teams, and each team was for a different member of the host club. I can't remember all the details of it, but essentially our team won. There was like competitions about like doing crazy stunts or something like that, whatever it was. And the winner got a free volume of manga that they're giving away. Of course, they were just giving away random volumes, and of course I wasn't collecting manga, so, but I didn't care grabbing a copy of it. It's a pretty artwork in it. Volume 7 is like kind of where it's near where the anime starts to end, if I'm not mistaken. Like actually, there's like some parts that overcross the end of Evangelion movie in parts, but it goes in a different direction, obviously. And so yeah, I got to say, hey, I can have one more manga to my collection. Most boring manga. So I don't really know if I would consider it boring myself. I don't really consider it boring, but if we're going by most boring in my collection, that would have to go to Doonesbury. This is a copy called Doonesbury Deluxe, and if you've never read Doonesbury, it is really intrinsically tied to the time period that it came out. Like, this particular volume here is all about the Reagan time period. It's not really, there is some story going on here. Like, actually, it's really confusing, because I had bought this copy at a thrift shop on a trip up north, and I saw it for only, like, it was only $3, and I, collect comic strips, and I didn't have any Doonesbury, so I bought this, and I had no idea about the plot lines going into it, and they never release anything in Doonesbury that's, like, by volume, apparently, so you kind of have to know the backstory of some of the characters, which can be a little bit boring. It's not really action-oriented. It's very political-heavy, which can be kind of funny. Some of the plot lines, not some of the plot lines, the jokes. Some of the jokes at the end of these are not the most funny. You have to be a very mature kind of person to get the subtle kind of black humor to some of this. Like, there's a homeless lady in some chapters, and there's lots of there's a guy who's a writer, and he like writes up an expose about how much it means to be a dad to him, and then the wife comes in and says, if you were a woman writing this stuff, people would just think you're being asinine. And yeah, they're right. Yeah, a man writes that stuff. Oh my gosh, he's a great man. A woman writes it. So what? That's kind of screwed up. But so yeah, that's not the most exciting thing on my shelf. So I'll put that as the most boring, but still a good read. Pretty good. Favorite manga series. So if we're going by what's on the collection here, here's the rule of thumb. Over reading something tends to make it less interesting if you read it too much. Like, if you'd asked me a couple years ago, I could have said, oh, Calvin Hobbes, like, instantly, #1, the most favorite thing ever. And I still hold that to probably be, like, the most favorite comic strip I've ever read. It just, I'm sorry. Sorry, other comic strips. Sorry about that. However, I do have to say, at the current moment that I'm filming this, I think the most enjoyable thing that I own to read is actually something that's very similar to Calvin Hobbes, is Zits. And I only own a couple of volumes of Zits. I only own a couple copies. My siblings actually have a tendency to get the more complete volumes, because they release like anthology volumes every year. Mostly because I buy them for them. I buy them for my younger brother as a birthday present, which, you know, works out good. So he's got the whole collection, basically. So I've got a couple of sketchbook versions. And on visuals alone, this is a really great read. I have a theory that you could actually read Zits without any of the dialogue, and you could still get most of what's going on. Like, this would be a great introduction for non-English readers into the American comic strip medium. A lot of people also really like this because I think it reminds them of Calvin Hobbes a lot, and because the art guy, Jim Boardman, was also from the same area as Bill Watterson. Jim Boardman actually did a lot of political comic strips at the same time that Bill Watterson was doing Calvin and Hobbes. So their styles kind of overlap, and their sense of humor also kind of overlaps. So there's that. So if I were to go for favorite, I think I'd rather read a Zits comic strip just because it's a little more recent, a little more modern, and because I haven't read it to death yet. So that's why that's number one right now. Most relatable manga. Okay, we're going to go over to this side here. I don't know if you can tell, but I own every volume of the complete Peanuts, almost all of them, that have been released so far. And that means every comic strip that has been released from 1950 all the way to 1990, I own the complete version of it, and it is a beautiful collection. I thank you, Fantagraphics, for re-releasing all of it in the format that it is, because it looks really nice. It looks like professional literature on my shelf, basically. And yeah, it is the most relatable comic strip I own, more so than anything else in my collection. Just beautiful to read, like really simplistic storylines, so it kind of goes by the Samuel Beckett rule of like, bring it down to simplicity equals quality. And also, depressing kids who can't kick the football or can't fly the kite, or like we all have those days where we don't feel like we're the most up, but we still get over it. And also, and the dialogue, some of the conversations, I swear, has like shaped as I was reading it, because I've been reading this since it started coming out when I was in high school. Really kind of shaped my personality on like how to interact in conversations. Like every end of dialogue doesn't have to be a punchline, but it can be some insightful commentary if you listen to the other person. Also, Snoopy. Heck yeah. One manga you own that's based on anime. I honestly don't think I have anything in here that's based on a pre-existing cartoon or an anime. I guess the one I go with is, again, the Evangelion volume, because it was kind of based on the anime, but they were going on simultaneously. I actually don't know if the manga was, like, the storyline was fleshed out before the anime hit the airways. I would think with the schedule that the anime would come out first? Maybe the other way around? I'm not sure, but there's some obvious parallels where the story guys were going the same direction, and then they diverged from each other, so, and I don't know. For that question, manga based on anime, I'll say NGE. Rarest manga. Alright, we're gonna have to go through the actual Peanuts collection here, because although the complete Peanuts has been never out of print since it started printing back in 2004, this particular volume here, this is the Peanuts 1953 to 54. This was the second volume that came out. This one, I think, is the rarest, because I don't have a lot of rare stuff, but I do have this. This is the first print run of the release. And why this is so rare is because in the back of it, it talks about how they are actually missing a comic strip at the time this was published. They apologized to the readers that one of the strips from May 3rd, 1953 was missing the top part of it, sort of that top cold opening section that you see in a lot of Sunday comic strips. This version that they had was missing that. Since then, they've actually re-released this because they got a full version of it So, and so if you go into bookstores today, like Barnes & Nobles, and you find this version, you'll notice that the new version of that particular strip from May 3rd is in there, and also the color is a little off. Like, this is a very dark blue color. I think the re-release has a more lighter blue shade. I think it was to differentiate the re-release version of it, so I guess this would technically be the rarest thing I have, just because the first print run. Like, all of the versions I have are first print run, because they release them 2 books to a year, and they always come out around the time my birthday is, which is in late August, so that's why I got so lucky, and it's like, I will buy that for myself every year, or someone buys it for me, so. Awesome. One manga that's been reprinted. For this one, I'm actually going to go with another actual manga series, and this is the only other manga I own. NGE, and this one are the only ones I own, and that is the brick version of Azumanga Daioh. Like, I like to have complete versions of something, and this is probably why I don't collect manga, because you have to buy them by volume. But this is the whole thing, like, all intact here. And this is technically a reprint, because if I remember correctly, they were released in individual volumes, and then Yen Press re-released this whole thing as one whole book. And I guess it's evidenced by my love for 4-panel comic strips. I also like the 4-coma stuff when it's done well, which is mostly what this is, except instead of going from horizontal, this is stacked vertically, because Japan, you know? So, this would technically be a reprint, I guess, and I'm glad it is too, because I got this for all-in-one collection. I remember the day I bought this, we went to the bookstore just to look around, and I told myself and my housemates, I'm not going to buy anything, I'm just going to look around, and I came back with this. It was good reading for the rest of the week, though, because look at the size of this thing! Most popular manga. I guess probably the most popular one is, there was actually a poll of all comic strips printed in America, and I think Peanuts came in 2nd place, so I'd say all of Peanuts would probably be the most popular thing versus everything else I own. If I remember correctly, the #1 comic strip, and this was a while ago, maybe the poll's been updated since then, but I'm pretty sure George Herman's Crazy Cat was the very first on that top of the list there, which I can understand, because actually I have a couple of like random collections of Peanuts too, because people gave them to me. There's a comic version of Crazy Cat in here, like right here. These are all comic strips that Charles Schultz had in his collection, and one of them is a Crazy Cat comic strip. And this one's really like I want to track down more Crazy Cat, because it's a little surreal. It's not conventional by our modern comic strip standards, and I like how they interject dialects into the dialogue, like they twist the words around, like one dialogue said, half is too much for him, when he gets back I'll change my mind and not give him any, or Crazy Cat has like this, gosh dang it, there ain't a selfish bone and ignites his whole soul. Like, you have to pronounce them out loud. It's like trying to read Middle English, and I kind of like that. So, yeah, Peanuts probably be the most popular that I own. For now. Most damaged manga. Like, wait, what? When I first saw that question, I was like, wait, like, most screwed up, like, content-wise, like, not really, like, firing on all cylinders? Well, I guess that's gonna be Peanuts. Then I said, oh, the book's damaged, okay. And once again, the answer is Peanuts. And one particular volume in particular, let me try to find it here. Alright, this is Peanuts 1971 to 72. It looks very nice, got a Sally on the cover there. I love the introduction by Kristen Chenoweth here. But if you open to the back of the book, and it's all ripped up, and it's not good. And you actually look at the top here, but you can't tell. But there's chocolate all over this stuff. What the heck happened? Now the pages are all good. Luckily, all the damage is on the outskirts of it, so you open the book and you read it, and it doesn't bug you, but it bugs me, because what happened was I got this collection my sophomore year of college, and I came back home to visit for, I think for a birthday party. My younger sibling had a Wendy's chocolate Frosty and spilled it all over this, and it got all sticky and kind of ruined the outside of it. Now, I dried it up, obviously, before it could do too much damage to the inside of the pages, but seriously, that damaged the outside. I will never take the slipcase off of this ever again, because that is unsightly. That most damaged, oh yeah. Most amazing art. Once again, that's going to have to be the Calvin and Hobbes collection here, and I'm not going to take that off the shelf again because, no, we're not going to do that again. But yeah, the author Bill Watterson basically decided to kind of bring the Sunday comics back to its roots by having a lot of splash panels, unconventional framing, make the whole page look gorgeous. And even not in those Sunday panels, the regular weekly panels are just amazing art. Like, I think Bill Watterson would have been great as a storyboard artist for any animation studio, because if you look at his stuff, he's got the expressions down. Like, he actually talks in some of the anthologies about how he loves the expressiveness of animation and how you can slow the build-up and you can control the timing of it, which comics can't do. With comics, you can only show one frame at a time. You can only show the extremes, you can only show the highlights, you can't show the build-up before it, so you're reading it and you have to put the pieces together in your head. But for only having 4 pictures every week in a comic strip, those are some beautiful looking pictures. And I know people have talked to ends about how fantastic his worlds are, how cool the Spaceman Spiff adventures were, or anything like that, but it's really good. Like, if I could draw, which I cannot, I would want to emulate that style because it is high quality art, just high quality art. Oldest published manga, based on just by the published date. I think again that's the Doonesbury comic strip, just because well, no one really reads this anymore, and actually there's not even I can't even find like I know there's a copyright down here somewhere because they have to, but they. Yeah, this hasn't been like re-released in a while, like copyrighted 1987 it looks like here. And everything else I own is mostly from the 2000s or sooner. Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, this is technically the oldest thing, and it shows it too, because you're not gonna... I mean, this is irrelevant unless you really understand American history. Like, there are some parts about, like, politicians not being very smart, or about fumbling their press conferences. Those are actually really funny. Those parts are still relevant, but the content itself is kind of trapped in the 70s and 80s. So yeah, that's a little old. Newest published manga, probably based on everything I have, excluding the Peanuts releases, that would probably actually be the Boondocks, which is another comic strip that I really like. That kind of looks like manga too, if you're not too trained. So hey, technically, maybe I do own more than 2 manga. No, I don't. But yeah, these are more modern re-releases, and actually based on they were releasing these particular volumes, like these anthology volumes, while the Boondocks comic, or not the comic, the TV show was airing on Adult Swim. Like, I think the first couple of seasons. So not too old, a couple of years maybe, but. And also really well worth the read as well. It's also kind of like Boondocks in that it's a little trapped in its time period, and I'm not sure how enjoyable it will be to readers, say, 10 or 20 years in the future. But there's plenty of parts here that I think I'll still enjoy reading. It's a lot more political than the TV show. If you've never read the comic strip, it's more political. It's less about black culture than the TV show was, which makes sense because TV show wants to be less tied into the time period that it was written. This is a weekly comic strip. It wanted to address the political issues at the time period. There's whole sections just devoted to bashing the first Star Wars prequel movie. Like, they spent whole months just making fun of that. And then when the second movie comes out, they make fun of that too. Like, yeah, you wouldn't see that exactly in the TV show. So I'm kind of glad they differentiated, because it makes this a unique read all on its own. And finally, most recently purchased manga. That would probably be... I'll grab it from back here. Alright, that would probably be not quite the most recent Peanuts release, but this is 87 to 90. Technically, there has been 2 more books released since then. Currently, you can go out, you can get all of 91 to 94 out. I never got around to buying it, though, so probably the next chance I get, I will probably go out and buy it. If you know where to look right, you can get it for not the full $50 they charge for it. You can get it for actually more like $30, but you have to know where to look for it. And so that would probably be the most recent thing that I own, or that I purchased on the collection there. Because, again, it all comes back to peanuts. So this has been Manga in the Morning, and your manga tag episode, which is obligatory when you have been tagged by someone else in a video. And as a retaliation, I believe I get to pick someone else now. Okay. I was picked, and I don't know a lot of manga, so I'll do one better. I will pick someone who I know owns more manga than I do. I'm going to call out Lilac from Lilac Anime Reviews. It's a channel actually you should check out. She does a pretty good coverage of anime, actually.
Now, about 80% of all anime is adapted from manga, light novels, and video games, but sometimes we get adaptations or characters from other fictional works or from moments in history.
And I know that she owns a lot more manga than I do. Like, yeah, more than that, so... You have been tagged, Lilac. Better get on that. In fact, while we're on this trail, let's go ahead and let's toss the rest of the dub talk cast in there when we do that. Queen Era, buddy from over at Anime America. You've got some manga in your collection, I know. I'm tagging you as well. You've been tagged. You can use the live action, or you can use the animated version of you, whichever one works best for you. But you know, you've been tagged.
If you haven't seen your lie in April, why the hell are you still watching this review? No. Go stop YouTube, go to Crunchyroll, and watch the show.
And while we're at it, Spaceman Hardy also getting tagged on there. Mr. Beef Jerky Crusted Pizza, master of the Beef Jerky Spicy Review Challenge.
I'm starting with Mojo Jalapeno. Then, during the review, I'm going to go up to Mojo Habanero. And for a finishing touch, I'm going to end.
Yeah, that guy, the manliest of us all. I know that he probably has a very discerning taste in manga, and I want to see what he's got in his collection too. So I'm tagging us, Spaceman Hardy, and let's get the number up to 4 there. 4 is a good round number. So let's add in the most youthful of us all, Pika Hikari Katie, dub, song coverer, and expertise in all things going on in the news world of anime. You have also been tagged in this manga cast, so all 4 of you answer these questions and let's see who's got the best manga collection on them. So, thank you for joining us, and have a manga-full day. That's horrible, that's horrible.
Nothing more to say, no more ace to play. The winner takes it all.